Bay of Bengal, 1025 Common Era. 300 miles from shore, the monsoon is trying to kill everyone in this ship. The ship has no iron, not one nail, not one bolt. She's fastened with coconut fiber rope, sealed with resin. By European logic, she should not survive this. Yet, she moves with the storm, flexing rather than fighting. When the wave strikes, she bends, rises, breathes. The Captain Dhruva's voice cuts through the wind.
Pull the line! Starboard! Now!
Crew obeys. No debate, no panic. The hull shivers, holds. The storm-wanted wreckage, it finds resilience. This is not luck, this is design. I'm Sarojit and subscribe to India's Golden Age podcast. Today, India builds less than 1% of the world's ships. 1,000 years ago, we owned these oceans. Let's sail back. Let's go to 2400 before Common Era, Lothal, Gujarat, the world's first tidal dockyard, the era when Egyptians were building pyramids, Indians were building ports. The dock is 222 meters of perfectly laid brick, a basin aligned to the pulse of the tide itself. Modern engineers have studied it, no flaws. The Harappans did not try to conquer the ocean. They watched it. They learned when it rose, when it withdrew. Then they built gates to trap high water. So when the sea retreated, the dock stayed full. 3,000 years before European ports understood tidal management, Lothal had already woven the sea's behavior into stone. There is a young merchant here loading carnelian bead copper ingots onto a reed boat. He is going to Dilmun in Bahrain to the ports of ancient Oman. The Indus merchant's beads have been found there in the soil, still red, still precise. 300 before Common Era. The Mauryan Empire is still at its peak. Somewhere in the capital, one man is running the largest maritime bureaucracy the ancient world has ever seen. The Arthashastra call him the Navadhyaksha, superintendent of ships. On paper, an administrator. In practice, timber extraction, shipbuilder licensing, port monitoring, piracy tracking, sailing clearances, tax collection, the works. Several modern ministries, one man. The Greek ambassador Megasthenes, who visited Chandragupta's court, describes this naval department with surprise, as if he has encountered something more organized than anything back home. Maritime trade was not a side business. It was strategic infrastructure. India also had an unfair advantage. Malabar teak, European oak, rotted quickly in warm saline waters. Teak lasted decades. 50 years of service was not unusual. The Mauryans understood maritime trade is not commerce, it is power. In the 11th century, the Yukti Kalpataru, attributed to Raja Bhoja, describes specialized ocean-going vessels. The Vishesh vessels, built long and narrow, approaching ratios of 1:8. These Vishesh vessels were fast, demanding, engineered for distance. Much of that knowledge is lost. The Nalanda library was burnt to ashes. Let's imagine Neely, a shipwright, 15th century. One of the 500 shareholders in a powerful maritime guild, a guild that resolves its own disputes, pools funds into shipyards, and maintains armed vessels to protect its cargo. A private navy, essentially. Neely works from instinct. 15 years of knowledge in her hands, inherited from her father, from his father, back to ancestors no one can name. She drills 2 holes along each plank seam. Coconut fiber packed tight. In water, it swells, closing the gaps further. Then she stitches with coir rope. Why this pattern? Her apprentice asks. When the wood swells from seawater, the cross stitch keeps the parallel stitches from loosening. The sea tests every joint. This pattern passes. Resin seals the seam. The hull has give in it. When struck, it flexes and spreads the force. In a nailed European hull, the impact gathers at each metal point. The nail strains, the wood splits. Let's get to know Dhruva, the ship captain. 23 years on the Bay of Bengal. In his hand, a kamal, a simple wooden board with knotted string. He aligns its base with the horizon and counts knots until the string reaches Polaris.
3 fingers above the horizon. Polaris steady, we are at the latitude of Bharuch.
No compass, no satellite, only a tool refined by generations. His vessel carries square sails. It cannot tack against the wind. European sailors might call that a limitation. Indian mariners built an entire system around it. For 6 months, the northeast monsoon drives across the ocean, and then it reverses completely. Southwest winds return with equal force. The entire weather system shifts like a clock resetting. The festival of Bali Yatra in Odisha, celebrated at Kartik Purnima, marks the precise end of the southwest monsoon. When the festival fires are lit, sailors know the window has opened. This is science dressed as ritual, so it would survive. All this long before Rome noticed these winds. Long before the Greek called Hippalus was handed the credit of discovering the monsoons. Dhruva smiles.
Why to fight the monsoon? Let it push you east to Bali. Trade while you wait. Return on the reverse winds.
His great-grandfather told him,
Watch the sea turtles. When they migrate across the Bay of Bengal, follow their route. They know the currents better than we do.
Yes, grandfather.
it sounds like superstition. It isn't. Sea turtles migrate along the exact same current corridors that Indian ships used for centuries. The sound was intimate and obscene. The vessel lurched and stuck fast. Dhruva did not raise his voice.
One of you, please go down and check. See the damage.
The sailor surfaced.
There is a cut in the outer planks, about 1 meter. Coral has gone deep. The seam has been torn loose by the coral.
Dhruva studied the shoreline.
We will beach her on that sandbar. Once she rests, we open the seam, restitch. By evening tide, she will sail.
In a European-nailed ship, this reef strike would have been fatal. The rigid frame would have transmitted the impact directly. Planks would have sprung. The hull would have opened. In Indian-sewn ship, the hull absorbed the hit, distributed it. The rope tightened. The fiber compressed. The raisin held. Neely's ancestors built the ship. Dhruva trusted his life to it. Late 1200s, Marco Polo stands at the edge of the Tamil Quay. He watches a ship so vast it seems to carry its own horizon. He writes by lamplight.
The ships of Malabar are so large they require crews of 150 to 300 men. They have multiple decks and more than 60 cabins for merchants. The whole is divided into watertight compartments, so that if one section is breached, the others hold. Many are fastened not with iron nails, but with cords, stitched like fabric. The merchants tell me this makes the hull flexible. It is able to withstand impacts that would shatter our vessels. I confess I do not understand the mechanism, but I see the results.
Polo described ships approaching 80 meters. Columbus's Santa Maria was 19. Indian ships are 4 times the size with watertight compartments, a feature European shipbuilders would not independently develop for another 5 centuries. Polo sailed home in 1295. People called him a liar for decades. The ships were simply too large to believe. After his visit, another 200 years of Indian maritime dominance passed. Then something arrived on the horizon that the Indian guilds and their private navies had no framework for. 1498 Malabar coast. Nearly 37 years in the craft watches unfamiliar Portuguese ships cut across the sea.
Arjun, look at the port side. Below the upper rail. See properly.
Her apprentice Arjun studies the vessel.
There are square openings with covers fixed over them.
Neely says,
Gun ports. When a cannon fires, the recoil is immense. The rigid frame absorbs it.
We can mount cannons also.
a pause. Neely says,
Our hull breathes. It gives. It flexes. That same give will betray us. Each shot makes us weaker.
the strength of Indian stitched ships becomes the weakness. 5,000 years of engineering ended by recoil physics. Indian maritime decline happened in 2 movements. The first was internal, a slow cultural withdrawal from the sea. After roughly 1000 Common Era, ocean travel began to carry associations of ritual pollution and social risk. Maritime professions lost status. The brightest in our community were not inclined for shipbuilding or ocean commerce. And then the financial architecture collapsed. Indian trade was funded for centuries through temple-based banking. When Portuguese intrusion disrupted trade, temple revenues fell. Credit dried up. Ships were not commissioned. Somewhere between 1600 and 1700, there was a last generation of master shipwrights like Neely who knew the old methods. Their children became traders. Their grandchildren forgot the knots and the sea. In the 18th century, Britain had a problem. English oak rotted in tropical waters. Ships built in Surat and Bombay from Malabar teak lasted decades, often for 50 years. The contrast was embarrassing. The Wadia family of Bombay became the master shipbuilders of the era. And their work was so highly regarded that the British Royal Navy commissioned them directly. HMS Trincomalee, launched in Bombay in 1817, is still afloat today, the oldest warship still floating anywhere in the world. Success bred resentment. London shipbuilders, unable to match the Indian quality, lobbied instead. Through navigation acts and related measures, Indian-built ships were effectively barred from British ports. A Wadia-built ship with Indian timber, Indian hands, Indian knowledge was legally barred from the most profitable ports in the world. Not because it was inferior, precisely because it wasn't. But something in India never let go of the sea. On February 2026, INS Kaundinya, a recreated Indian stitched ship, the type Dhruva commanded, Neely built, eases into Karwar harbour after a 1400-kilometer passage from Muscat. No GPS, no modern instruments. 17 Indian Navy sailors navigated using a kamal, stellar positions, wind patterns, and ocean currents. The ship, inspired by an Ajanta painting, was built using reconstructed ancient techniques, teak bound with coconut coir. No iron nails. The sea and science hadn't changed. The knowledge just needed a refresh. The voyage was not nostalgia. It established that the engineering described in ancient texts and painted on cave walls functions in open water. India did not lose its ocean dominance because it lacked ships, timber, or skill. It lost its ocean because somewhere in the long trauma of colonial domination, it stopped believing the sea was central to its destiny. The Indian Ocean bears India's name, not as a political claim, as a historical fact. Stand today in the flight deck of INS Vikrant. The Arabian Sea wind moves across a ship that stretches 262 meters and displaces 45,000 tons. It's India's first indigenous aircraft carrier designed and built at home. From the dock engineers of Lothal 4,500 years ago to the Chola naval expedition of the 11th century, Indian ports and fleets shaped every trade route across these waters. Today we build less than 1% of the world's commercial fleet. By 2047, the ambition is to stand among the 5 top shipbuilding nations of the world. The ambition is not about rankings. It is about restoring a relationship between a civilization and a sea that made it. India has been a great maritime giant before. In the second golden age, it will be again. One day. I'm Sarojit. This has been India's Golden Age podcast. Subscribe and share. And to explore India's first golden age further, my novel Dhruva Devi is coming. We'll sail to a new destination in the next episode. Jai Hind.